challenges from 60s to 80s. And now I'd like to present Judy Mandleman, who's been an active volunteer in the Jewish community for the past 5 decades. Locally, nationally, and internationally, she sat on the boards of Jewish Federation, Canadian Jewish Congress, King David High School, and Temple Sholom. But it is her volunteer leadership with Hadassah-WIZO for which Judy is most recognized. And from her early days as a founding member of Aviva Chapter, Judy has gone on to hold numerous positions, including Bazaar chairwoman, Public Affairs chairwoman, and Resolutions chair at the World Zionist Conference. She was elected in Hadassah-WIZO national president in 1993 for a 3-year term. So Judy will describe what her situation is.
When I walked in today, Gloria said, we've moved the order around, and she said, you're going to go last. Oh, sorry. Is that better? Yes. When I arrived, Gloria told me that she was going to move the order around, and so I said to both Chris and to Joy, I guess that means everything will have been said. And basically, including Dr. Diane, many things that I had planned to say have been covered extremely well, and I've discovered that maybe I'm not doing it all right, but that's okay. I'll keep doing it my way, because, I don't know, it seems to be working so far. But I also have to pick up on what Joy just said, that she all of a sudden thought of how she was handling the current situation and realized that she could do it differently, and that she shouldn't be looking at how she was doing it, but how it could be done, and being more organized about it. And I think that a few of the things that I saw today and heard are the lessons that I've taken throughout my entire life. I've had amazing role models in my life, from my parents through to the many people that I have had the privilege and pleasure to work with. I've learned from all of them, so education goes on, and I've learned a lot again here today. So it doesn't matter at what age you're at, you're always learning. You should be open to continue to learn. I've had so much luck in my life. I just can't imagine anybody having more luck than I have had. I have had the ability to serve as a volunteer in this community. I've been privileged to do this. Not everyone can be a full-time volunteer. I also had the privilege for a short time of sitting on the opposite side of being a volunteer, where I worked with volunteers as a professional, and I learned so much. So everything that I have done in my life has been a learning experience. I also learned from my parents that I have very bad genes. So again, I learned from Dr. Diane that that's not necessarily a death sentence, and it isn't. But I learned because of that my lifestyle had to be different than my parents' was. And therefore, at a very young age, my son was just going to Hebrew school, and my father-in-law had passed away at the age of 58. He said to me very quietly in the car as I drove him, "Mother, would you please quit smoking?" Anyway, about 2 hours later, I was tearing my hair out of my head, but I had made a promise, and I stuck to it. So 40 plus years I have not smoked, so that's been a positive thing. I learned from our children. I also learned that exercise was good for you, and I have high blood pressure, so I hear that helps. But I also learned today that my exercise of jogging every day is not exactly the best thing, because I've passed the 50 years. So I'm going to have to find other exercise to bring myself into better balance in my life. So I will continue to learn and hopefully do that better. When somebody asked me, and I think one of the first questions on this list was, do you have as much energy as you had, or do you have less energy? Well, I can only tell you that I'm looking back, and I look back to when I was 35 or 40 and I began to jog. Maybe I don't jog quite as fast, but I'm still doing it. And so therefore, I think I have just as much energy. I also looked at challenges in my life, and I find that challenges, I think, are the things that keep us young. And I'm hoping that they're mostly positive challenges in our life. So when I ended my presidency of Hadassah-WIZO Canada, I discovered I didn't have anybody to, my secretary I had nothing. I had never looked at a computer except over somebody's shoulder. So I took on a computer. Well, between a computer and I decided I had more time in my life, I also took up golf. Well, one day, about 3 or 4 months later, I stood on our balcony and I looked out and decided which should I throw over first, the computer or the golf clubs. Both of them are very challenging, but they're also very positive. I had a wonderful friend who's since passed away. She was older than I am, and I always said to her, what keeps you young? And she said, having young friends like you. So the golf has given me a few younger friends, which is great. But I also look around and I see that the computer, even though it's a challenge, it's this whole new technology. So when I came down to the question of keeping in touch with family, we're very blessed that our one son lives here and my brother lives here, and so mainly my family and close. And I grew up, I was born in Vancouver, which is really a very special blessing because you have friends that are friends forever, and it's really amazing. But I realized that technology has a lot to do with the fact that we have one son living in California, and therefore how do we keep in touch? Well, I guess most of you in this room who have kids know the best time to keep in touch with your kids, or they keep in touch with you, is when they're stuck in traffic. And thank God for cell phones, because I hear from my sons every day when they're stuck in traffic, including the one in California. So there's not a minute that we miss. So those things in my life have been really great. And I really, as far as living was concerned, 26 years ago, we lived just across the street. In fact, when I came in here today, it brought back very special memories. At the time that Temple Sholom started, and I'm looking at Sid back there and the Rebacks, we were in this building for a certain number of years. Chris, I don't know if you remember that. And our youngest son that's now in California was bar mitzvahed right here. So there is a whole thing when you are a part of the community. I guess I've really covered all of the questions, I think. Have I, Gloria? Yeah, I'm not sure, except for maybe the other ones. And so I brought something with me, but actually you said it in a very nice way, Joy. I'll say it again. This is not my words. I had a little book many, many years ago. I think it was like a Hallmark book, and it had different quotations and poems and different things in it. And it struck me as the way in which I would hope that I would live my life. And I cut it out, and I happened to be going through some things last week, and I found it. So I thought I'd just share it with you if I had the moment. It's called One Day at a Time, and the author is unknown. It says, there are 2 days in every week about which we should not worry. 2 days which should be kept free from fear and apprehension. One of these days is yesterday, with its mistakes and cares, its faults and blunders, its aches and pains. Yesterday has passed forever beyond our control. All the money in the world cannot bring back yesterday. We cannot undo a single act we performed. We cannot erase a single word we said. Yesterday is gone. The other day we should not worry about is tomorrow, with its possible adversities, its burdens, its large promise, and poor performance. Tomorrow is also beyond our immediate control. Tomorrow's sun will rise, either in splendor or behind a mountain of clouds, hopefully no rain, but it will rise. Until it does, we have no stake in tomorrow. For it is as yet unborn. It is at least as good as it is bad, since it does not exist. This only leaves one day, today. Anyone can fight the battles of just one day. It is only when you and I add the burdens of those two awful eternities, yesterday and tomorrow, that we break down. It is not the experience of today that drives men mad. It is the remorse and bitterness for something which happened yesterday, and the fear of what tomorrow might bring. Let us therefore live but one day at a time, today.